Hello, everyone. This is Roxanne Jasparro, and we have Jay Cook here with us today on Witch Mafia podcast. And what we'll be discussing is the celestial realm. So, Jay, I met you about how long?
Uh, like 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Wow, it seems like, I don't know, I feel like I've known you forever. The first time I ever met you was at Art Festival.
Yep.
So, as many of you know that come to Bewitched, Art Festival is thousands of people that come through Bewitched, and you were referred to me. So ever since then, you've been kind of part of the Bewitched family. And so everyone that's actually come in and seen you has absolutely loved you. I love you as my kind of, you guide me through my stars and my own natal chart and help me kind of guide my decisions and where I'm going. So I'm excited to have you on the Celestial Realm podcast. Every Wednesday nights, we're going to try to put it on around 7 o'clock. And so, Jay, what got you into astrology?
Um, the occult. So magic, the craft, and I was just knew that astrology was the basis of all occult sciences. So that's I knew I had to study that, and I made a lifelong commitment to that.
So I'm sure obviously you've started with your own chart, correct? When you started to get into astrology?
No.
No? Okay, so what made
Um,
you have the love for the stars?
I kind of started with my own chart, but
Okay.
it was easier to look at other people in my life and see what they were going through. And if you're just by yourself, it's hard to see what if it's accurate. But if you're talking to other people and you're saying, "Here's what I'm seeing," and they're confirming, "Hey, this is what's happening," then we tend to my confidence was able to grow because it wasn't just me.
So it kind of is like the same thing for a psychic. So many people say, well, can you give yourself readings? And I'm like, yeah, I can, but it's not the same. When you can really use your gift and your craft for other people, that's really when you start to build your skill and kind of see, what language, how you communicate the different things. Because I know you are also psychic when you look at charts. So when you have done mine, you're like in the first house, you know, you got Mercury, you got Pluto, you got all this kind of going on. But now that another planet is housing in that first house, you're very much like, this is kind of the energy in which you're going to feel. And then I've seen you pick up psychic stuff too. So would you say that you are an astrologer, but also a psychic astrologer also?
Yeah, I'd say I'm psychic, but I've always had those gifts my whole life. But I feel more comfortable talking to people from a more objective framework where I don't have to be so in their energy all the time. And for that point in my life, 10 years ago, when I was 24, I was less comfortable with my gifts and abilities. And astrology has helped me bridge the gap.
Okay, so astrology became your love and your access tool for people.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Have you ever done an animal astrology?
And most people don't have their animals' birth charts, so no, not really.
Okay, just thinking,
But
for
I
the
can.
future.
I mean, but most
Okay.
people don't. I do have books on dog astrology and cat astrology, but most people just don't know beyond the sun sign of their animals. So
Now, is that something like as a psychic, and I know you love to use your pendulum, is that something if someone wanted to kind of maybe know if their cat or dog was, they knew it was born in April or the date? Okay, you have a cat that's Aries, let's say. Would
yeah,
you be able to kind of, in knowing the year, would you be able to give some aspects about that animal? And if
of
not,
course,
use your psychic ability to pick up?
of course, yeah. And we can
Okay.
always use the pendulum to rectify, and sort of put together some sort of chart that makes sense for the
I
animal.
think, and I've heard you say that before too. You've and everyone bear with us. There is Mercury in retrograde, and we are going to talk about that as we had some issues getting on exactly at 2. And as you can see, Jay is leaving us, and he will be back. There he is. So Mercury retrograde is here, and it's already messing with our electronics. And I swear it's not just me, even though most of you know I'm not good with this stuff. You went into another realm, a celestial realm, Jay.
Yeah, we're going to be professionals in no time at this, but
exactly. So, I mean, this first one was really kind of to everyone knows here. For most of you who don't know, Jay is the house astrologer here at Bewitched, but he does have his own business called Jason Astrology, and you can find that on Facebook, Instagram, correct?
Yep.
Perfect. And you can book
YouTube.
appointments with Jay through Bewitched as well. So many of you wondering, what your natal chart looks like and any forecast for things kind of coming for the year for you. He's amazing. Like I said, he does my readings, and I've been trying to find someone to read me for a long time. So I'm happy to have you, Jay. So since we have limited time, Jay has a beautiful new daughter. And she's going to need your assistance from her dad in probably about 20 minutes, right? 15 minutes,
Yeah.
20 minutes. Okay.
3:15.
3:15. All right, everyone. So we've got, let's see, about 22 minutes with you, if that.
Yep.
So let's give everyone a little bit of kind of what is going on right now. We just had a lunar eclipse. Now we're going to have the solar eclipse on April 8th. And of course, in Aries, we have a Mercury retrograde. So can you tell us a little bit of what that energy is going to be like? I know with everyone it is different based on our birth chart, but kind of around about what's kind of happening for most people.
Yeah. So most people just think of retrograde as the time when Mercury is going backwards or appears to be moving backwards in the sky. But really it has a few different phases that we have to break it up in. So the first phase is when Mercury kind of stops. It goes stationary retrograde, meaning it barely moves, and all that energy builds. And so on April 1st, when Mercury went retrograde, and the couple days before, and the couple days after, all that energy was compounding. It was like everybody was feeling the effects with no outlet for release. So that always happens at the beginning and the end of retrograde. Is we get these stationary periods where all the energy builds before we can move out into any sort of direction, backward or forward. And then now that we're starting to get into retrograde, what tends to happen now for the next 20 days until April 24th, when retrograde ends and Mercury goes direct, is it's all about self-awareness. So normally Aries is a very active sign. You're always following your impulses, pushing out, acting on your ideas, aligning with your own point of view. Well, now it's time to figure out what that point of view is. So all the action gets stopped and paused as we figure out who we are, what we actually want, where we actually want to go, and is our behavior lining up with that? That's really the question. And so for the next 20 days, we have to figure out, who am I? And what will happen is we'll get to the inferior conjunction as Mercury moves backward towards the sun. They'll end up in a conjunction, the same degree of the zodiac. And then what will happen from there is things will start to become very clear to you about who you actually are and how to realign your actions with who you want to be in the future. And then when Mercury goes direct on the 24th, at that point, you will start to move forward in that direction. And then you'll have the shadow period, as everybody so famously knows.
Yes.
Where there's 2 weeks where Mercury retraces its steps. So Mercury will go back over all the degrees it just retraced. And for that point, you have to be very committed to staying true to what you found out during retrograde. You can't waver. You can't come off of it. So we have to set up a boundary, and a boundary that comes from that self-awareness. So that's the Aryan influence, is how can we understand ourselves more? People might do their hair differently, explore different fashion sense, take care of themselves from a beauty standpoint, or also change things about how they conduct themselves out in society and try on different things.
Now, you're speaking because we have, just so everyone knows, because the Mercury retrograde is particularly going through what we call like the Aries season right now. That's why you're talking a little bit more about the eye, right?
Yeah. So
because if it was in another zodiac, it would be something a little bit different. Like we know Aries to be eye.
So the last Mercury retrograde in December was in Capricorn. That was all about figuring out your goals, realigning with those goals, becoming more economical in your approach towards them, which is a lot different than right now, where it's figuring out who you are at your core and then realigning your actions with that come post retrograde.
So would you say that retrograde is kind of a way that kind of shakes us up and says, no matter what zodiac it's in, it obviously is for different things, but for example, for Aries, like what am I doing? Where am I going? And then when you kind of like jump out of that retrograde, you kind of be like, okay, well, this is whatever one you pick, whether you pick, the right path, or maybe you find out later on it wasn't, you're picking something and going with it. Right? Because retrogrades kind of made you uncomfortable, or am I misunderstanding that?
No, it does. It makes you uncomfortable because we're used to being in constant action.
Right.
But 3 times a year for 22 days, just about, we have to pause. We have to do all the re's, right? Like we have to reevaluate and reassess and review. And that's all, right? That's Mercury retrograde. It's all the re's, right?
Yes.
So we figure these things out. We retrace the steps like Mercury does in the heavens. And there's proper emphasis placed on the themes of the sign. And then, coming out the back, if you've calmed down and listened and paid attention, you will then have gotten the insight. Mercury is about communication, about getting at your truth. So the truth is now in relation to that sign. So for Aries, it's about me as an individual, or you as an individual. And then in Taurus, it will be about your value. But the next retrograde will be Mercury and Leo. It tends to do all the same element before moving on to a different element.
Oh, I never knew that, Jay. That's pretty fascinating. So obviously we know Aries is fire. So, fire starters, we are ahead of the zodiac, and we tend to start things, not always finish everything. We're really good at starting new ideas and things like that. So really taking a hold of that fire energy. So what would you suggest, since we're going through this for you said until April 24th?
Yep.
Okay. So everyone listening out there, really, I would say start charting what your emotions of things you've been thinking about every day up until that point. So you can go back and read your journals or your moon journals and say, like, this is kind of the energy that I've been feeling. And then, because sometimes I find we have so many of these thoughts that kind of go through us, and, we're in society where everyone's screaming like it's Mercury in retrograde, and they're blaming everything on Mercury in retrograde. And I feel like Mercury in retrograde has got such a bad rap, and I feel like it shouldn't, because I find that sometimes it's like a ping pong. It's like, figure this out, let's go, and then it shoots you out.
Right.
So I feel like this Mercury is just got a bad rap, and I feel like if we understand Mercury in retrograde so much more, and we'll continue to talk about the different Mercury retrogrades even before they happen, because I think this is such an important big topic for people to really understand, because people tend to like want to hide in their homes during Mercury retrograde, or and in different elements or different signs, that could be not a good thing, not benefiting you.
Well, because people aren't looking at the whole picture. They're just looking at the 22 days or 24 days here of this one retrograde. And they don't even think about it before. They're just like going forward in their lives. And then all of a sudden it's like now they can't. Like they want to rush forward. They want to go express themselves. But now Mercury's like, hey, I'm an Aries. And I want you to take a deeper look at who you actually are. Are you actually behaving in a way that's going to get you what you desire?
Right.
And so that first pause for 20 days, people don't realize all we're doing is, hey, we're going to figure that out. Come the 24th, now we can take action on that information. We're going to have a few months until June 14th of 2024. And then the 47 days after that, until Mercury goes retrograde again, when we hit the superior conjunction, meaning Mercury is then going to go direct, it's going to catch up to the sun, and it's going to conjunct the sun again. At that point, on June 14th of 2024, that's the harvest time of this Mercury cycle. This inferior conjunction on April 11th, where you start to see the light at the end of this tunnel, that's like the beginning of this phase. So really, we're at the seed time. Instead of trying to rush ahead, we need to go, okay, here's who I am. Here's how I'm going to express myself. Then when we come out, we do the work until June of 14th of 2024. And then all of a sudden, if we've done the work on ourselves, then we can cash in. And then we get the rewards for that 47 days up until it goes retrograde again. And then we work on the Leonian side, on our creativity, on expressing ourselves in a different way.
So, for instance, and I have a lot of clients right now that, you know, the readings are, who am I? I've been a teacher for 20 years and I'm just done being a teacher. It's not because I don't love my students. It's just the politics and everything behind it. It's taking that joy out of being a teacher. I'm seeing this so much and it is so sad. And they're like, what else are my gifts? Like, what else can I do with this? You know? And so I find that this Mercury retrograde is a perfect time for that. And it's just brewing in them. And so they're coming out and they say, okay, you know what? Instead of being a teacher in school, I want to be able to teach, stay home, you know, kids that get taught at home, they're homeschooled. Some of my teachers are going to be doing that. And so they're able to take their gift and then also provide it for in an environment where they don't have that political stuff. You know, they can truly just be a teacher and connect with the student and help them. So let's say they figured that out, right? Then come June 14th, you said this is the part where you kind of cash in. So is this the part where, what's this? It's in Leo, correct?
Yeah, so no. On June 14th, Mercury will be, I don't have it up right now, but Mercury will conjunct the sun, but it won't be in Leo. The next time it goes retrograde, about 47 days after that, it will be in Leo. Because the sun in June will be in Gemini. So it'll catch up in Gemini, we'll have the conjunction. But like that's the solidifying, that's the fruit of becoming who you are. Once the next retrograde happens, the work becomes, how do you take this person and then create with it? How can we express ourselves in a way and play with others very well? And how can we follow our gut instinct? You know, these are going to be Leonian themes. And all the fire signs relate, right? Like in Aries, we figure out who we are. In Leo, we start to become that person in society. We get applauded for our role that we take on.
We shine those Leos.
And then in Sag, we share that philosophy with others through a process of cultural exchange or learning from one another, higher learning.
Perfect. So these are actually retrogrades that if everyone out there listening can take this now and not be so fearful of it and say, okay, this means who am I? Where do I want to go? And the next one is like being creative. How do we expand on that? How do we add more creativity and shine to who we are or what the goals in which we are trying to attain, correct?
Right.
Perfect. perfect. See, retrograde really isn't that bad.
No, so the fruit of this one is just that you figured out who you are.
Right.
You're acting in alignment with that. And you've got boundaries set up with healthy boundaries with other people, so you're not coming off your routine anymore. You're finally feeling comfortable in who you are in your own skin and how you operate.
Now, I do have a question. Everyone says Mercury, retrograde Mercury is communication. So, like, communication is always off. So, during these times of Mercury communication, is it really that the communication is off, or that there's this celestial energy that's kind of working in around the planet and affecting everyone, that because it's doing its work within our own space and then everyone's own space, and then we're all in everyone's space, that it kind of glitches and even our electronics glitch?
Yeah, communication is off, but that's because the communication is now with the self. And
say that again.
Communication is now with the self.
The self, like
right.
Person.
It's
right.
internal.
Okay.
Then what we discover through that internal communication, then we can share outward with others later. And sometimes it's like we need to get into that inner work to have that deep conversation with our spouse or our friend. Sometimes retrograde makes us have that conversation because we've been waiting to have it for so long. So it's not until something goes retrograde that we have access to that information and we're able to express that part of ourselves.
Certain retrogrades, and now that you said, that I never realized that it stays, the 3 retrogrades throughout the year, every, those 22 days or so, 3 times a year. Am I glitching again?
No, you weren't glitching for me, so.
Okay. That it being in, a certain element is so powerful.
Yeah.
So that's something we could talk about even further. And if anybody knows too, Jay is also a witch, so he works a lot in the same field that I do too. So we work with a lot of herbs, we do a lot of things psychically, and we utilize these different tools, being a witch, to manifest and sometimes protect and release and things like that. So when we talk about astrology, when we talk about the stars, the palette of the stars, what is your saying on your say? I love it. It's like you work with the palette of the stars, I think.
My saying is, I paint pictures of people from the palette of the stars.
I just think that's absolutely beautiful. And I really, truly believe that more and more people should not look at astrology as scary. Sometimes it's the interpretation, and other astrologers, some can interpret really easily for you to understand. Some get kind of lost in that language. It's like different readers. You're going to gravitate to one reader, the way they communicate, versus the way another one does. So it's like, find someone that you're comfortable with. People all around the world, billionaires, famous people, they have an astrologer and they have a psychic and they have a medium. These are people that they work with. Majority of them do. It's for a reason.
And hopefully this information will help you learn what value we can bring.
Exactly. And I want people to understand that you don't have to be rich and famous to have access to talented individuals like you and I that do this because this is the way we were born. This is what we were supposed to do. We are in what we are supposed to do. And we help people, not just from a monetary standpoint, but we have, and as you've seen me, Jay, and I've seen you do it also, offer and extend your services over the allotted time to get that information to them so they could live their best life and get, working
all
and getting on their star path. So I will definitely wrap this up. Is there anything, Jay, you want to say before we can wrap this up?
I love being a part of the Bewitched family. I love you, Peggy, Jerry, John, everybody over there. I'm so glad that I met you guys. And I'm excited for the Celestial Realm podcast.
Me too. And we love you too. We are like our own little witch pod family here. And we love all our clients, even our 4-legged ones that come in. So continue to come in and tune in. We are going to be consistent. So we're going to try to do this one night a week. You will hear from the celestial realm. We do encourage, once we have a little bit more time, that you can ask questions live and we can answer them. What we're going to try to do is get out that forum to let you guys know to send us those questions ahead of time so we can be a little bit organized in that. But we'll get we'll get the gig on this. So
retrograde will straighten us out.
We will. I was like, we are doing this. I'm gonna take advantage of this Arian Mercury retrograde energy, and we're getting on here one way or another. So we did it, Jay. We did it, and thank you all of you for viewing. And please share the podcast, share it to your friends. It will be on the Witch Mafia Spotify as well as YouTube in here to review. So stay tuned and be your star self and continuously shine. So until next time on the Celestial Realm, enjoy your retrograde. Remember, write down all the things that you are trying to be for yourself.
Yes, we're going to use it later.
We're going to use it later. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.